Okay, so metal.
Metal.
This show's about metal.
What is metal? We're going to spread the hidden value in music.
We're going to proselytize. We're going to get the word out there.
We are.
That's important.
Welcome to the Great Metal Podcast. You are here with Shredmaster Scott, Just Pete, and the Metal Evangelist.
The greatest
Pete,
pod
good to have
in the world.
Oh,
This is it.
You know what? This is the
I
greatest
just want to
podcast in the world.
finger Luke's G-string there in the background. See that axe?
You guys see it? You guys see
Stroke
it?
his hardwood.
Oh, look at that thing! Look at that thing. So solar guitars. I'll plug Solar Guitars real quick. Even though I'm not an affiliate, I don't get any money for it. But Ola, your guitars, man, are really, really good. They're really high quality. They're not chintzy like a toy, like a Fender Strat. It's got a lot of girth. Yeah, it's got a lot of girth to it. Plays like a dream, man. I'm digging this thing. And now today we're going to talk about, I think it's the most contentious topic in the metal universe. This is number one, guys. On the metal boards, this one starts wars. We're going to talk about metal bands who have sold out. Oh my gosh.
Pop ahead. He's smiling all the way to the bank.
You can see he's disappointed himself.
Yeah.
Well,
that was before
20-year-old
he sold out. That was his previous self judging, his sellout self, basically.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So this one is really tough. I mean, and because we kind of have to like define the term, right? Like what is selling out?
First of all, never sell out. If you're a band, never try to make money, never try to gain popularity and become successful. Don't do it.
Terrible idea.
Stick to your virtues and your values and play to 3 people at clubs and never grow.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's that's maybe some good advice. Well, so I mean, this is really it, right? So like a lot of people use the expression like, this band sold out or whatever. And ultimately, I think the issue is not so much a band that changes their musical style. It's when a band chases money and fame, right? They're like, I'm going to whore my music writing ability out because I want money and girls. That's what it is, right? And so,
man.
And here's the thing. You can't necessarily blame somebody for doing that.
For wanting to
right?
eat.
For wanting
actually make a living with their music.
Yeah.
I mean, the starving artist, like you don't have to do that is the thing. Like people have this idea that that's like pure. You have pure motivation. You do it for the music, bro. But the reality is, right, if you're not making money, you don't have any resources really to grow the band and to get like higher quality recordings and to reach more people with marketing. It's actually better for the music if you make money.
Well, of course. But here's the problem. Here's the problem I have with it personally is if I'll use an analogy. If you're 450 pounds of pure fat.
Can we say 420 pounds?
420 pounds of pure fat. And the only thing you eat all day long is McDonald's and Burger King. And then you want to tell me how to be physically fit?
Oh, no.
I'm not going to listen to you.
No. Don't you tell me. Don't you tell me.
It's an inauthenticity thing. It's a hypocritical thing. And more so than any other genre, right? Metal fans, they love the metal culture, right? Because if you look at anything else, right, like rap is all about flexing how much money you have,
status,
right?
Fame,
specifically about selling out.
Specifically about selling out, yeah, and
making it rain.
Even more, some of the more like quote unquote thoroughbred genres like country music, right? These guys sing about like being poor and blue collar, and they like dirt roads and all stuff. And then they live in $20 million mansions in Los Angeles.
Well, they also don't write their music.
They don't write their music. Sure.
Yeah, they have professional songwriters that write them, which is to me, now, right? When you say, I'm just here to be the face and play it live for people, but there's other people that write the music. To me, that's
maybe that's already the expectation in popular music. Everybody gets it, that they've sold out. But in metal, it's a little bit more like grassroots, pure, and you're coming up like Metallica in the early 80s, and you these guys. You go to the club, you can talk to them. They're accessible, right? But then over time, the level of intimacy between the artist and the consumer dissipates, right? It gets that fourth wall, so to speak, starts to get built up one brick at a time. Another brick in the wall, another brick in the wall, another brick in the wall, right?
Well, that's a great point.
It's that lack of connection the consumer is feeling with the band. Maybe Pete was talking about this earlier before we went live. Maybe that's part of what irks, people, and that's what causes the charge of selling out.
Yeah, I think so. To me, it's the music. People relate to music very personally, and so then seeing their artists that they like change or do different things that they perceive as doing those just for the money, right? Like, well, they're doing that now just for the money, and then it's like almost like a personal attack, right? Because you've made a personal connection to the music. So, I don't know.
Matt Davis is kind of like adding some nuance to this here. He's not talking about the money aspect. He's talking about diverging from your artistic vision. Okay. But, a lot of times the change in the trajectory of the artistic vision gets you more money. Like, for example, the Metallica Black album. Ever heard of it? This is the best-selling Metallica record, right? And what you have is like this divide right there when that record was released in 1990 or 91 or whatever. Before that, with Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, and Justice for All, that was all classic thrash metal Metallica, right? But then Metallica gets this idea, hey, wait a minute. Can we reach more people with this brand of metal that we've come up with? So they write the Black album to kind of become more commercially viable. So they changed their artistic direction, which as a consequence led to them selling out, laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah. So here, and I think here's the problem that metal fans have with that strategy is they don't like pop music, right? So what happens is the fans, the metal fans, go to the club, support Metallica to get Metallica enough traction in order for them to leave their metal fans behind and go please the pop fans, right? So it's like me as a Metallica fan in the 80s, I'm like buying all their merch and giving them my money. And then Metallica's like, your money isn't good enough. We want all of their money. And, you supported us, but we're not going to continue to support you. That therein lies the divide, right? And so it's for the like
fans now, huh?
It's a betrayal, right? It's like the more there's way more money in pop music. Well, then go be a pop musician, right? But if you're a metal musician, aren't you a metal musician because you love metal? And if you do love metal, like metal fans, then why are you changing your style? Right? And so then you become this like, I don't know, a hypocritical betrayer. That's what it feels like, right? You betrayed me as a fan. And so I think just like if I paid you, Scott, if I paid you to write me a song,
$666. That's my minimum fee.
$666 million.
I need at least that much.
I pay you to write me a metal song. You take my $666 million and then write me a Cardi B song. I'd be like, give me my money back, motherfricker. That's what I would say.
That's not going to fly. That's not going to fly.
Just not.
So do we have like examples of the biggest offenders in the sellout community? Who are these guys?
We do.
So go after them and get them. Put them in jail. Put these guys in jail.
Right. Go ahead, Pete.
I was gonna say, and then Matt had another comment which kind of relates to this again. Is the idea is I think you can change and develop, and sometimes as you get better, right, in your art form, that also makes you more popular. Even if you're not switching to like going after a whole different genre like pop, right? You're just technically better, and you're writing better riffs, and you're better song structure. It's more pleasing to listen to. And so it's like, I think, you can change, like Matt says here, changing your direction is fine as long as you're kind of staying true to what you're doing and it's your development. And it's not about the product, right? Saying I'm writing this as a product to maximize sales. It's more like I'm writing this because this is the development of my artistic endeavors, right?
Sure, but no one can discern the difference as fans, right? And no matter what you do, I mean, here's the reality. When you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, right? So at the end of the day, understand that you're not going to have this complete harmony between your fan base. So you need to kind of follow your true North Star.
Yeah, of course. It's just the idea, though, is you don't want to sell people on one thing and give them something else, right?
Being deliberately deceiving. That's
right. And we're going to see examples of that today. We're also going to see examples of exactly what Pete said. When it gets to a certain band, perhaps from Sweden, they changed quite radically, but all of the elements they changed to were there from the very beginning. So, since you brought up Metallica, let's start there, because Metallica for sure is the most obvious example of this. Here's really the thing. Part of the problem with Metallica changing their style was they were kind of credited with, being one of the big four, like inventing an entire genre, thrash metal, right? And so anyway, let's oh man, I'm not even set up here. I gotta get to my videos here.
You're not expecting that sudden change in style. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I think if you were in a band yourself, you would understand what it's like. Like if you're a content creator, it's the same kind of thing. Like people get to know you for a certain thing. Same thing with being an actor. You get typecast. And then what happens if you want to pursue like a different aspect of yourself? Like maybe, you like metal, but then also there's this classical aspect. Well, I guess you could go neoclassical if you wanted, but I mean, it's complicated.
This came up. This was all over the metal message boards. And, one common suggestion was, look, if a band is going to radically change their style, particularly like genre to a totally different genre, they should start a new band. Right. And so it's like, the idea is if I am, for instance, I didn't really listen to Metallica growing up, but what was really popular when I started getting into metal was like the whole Load and Reload stuff, because it was like on MTV was like Until It Sleeps and Hero of the Day, which we're going to hear here in a second. And so to me, that was my first exposure really to Metallica. I had heard Enter Sandman and stuff before. So that was like Metallica. I was like, Metallica is not heavy at all. Like, I don't know why people call them metal.
What a joke.
But I didn't know like their 80s catalog. Right. Yeah, so anyway, so here's a song Metallica. This is Phantom Lord. This was off of Kill 'Em All, their first album. So here's how Metallica started, right?
I thought that was like a bondage song for a minute. Taste the leather on my lips.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, it's fast, it's aggressive, I mean, that like exemplified the genre, right? They started. Well, here was my like first real taste of Metallica in the mid 90s. Here's Hero of the Day.
Oh no.
Excuse me while I tend to how I feel. These things return to me that still seem real. Now deservingly this easy tear, but the rocking star my wheels of despair. Yeah, don't want your aid, but the fist I made for years can't hold no feel. No, I'm not on me, so please excuse me while I tell you how I feel. But now the dreams and waking screams that everlast the night.
Started to get a little bit heavier there at the end, but
Yes.
I say cancel Metallica. Cancel. it.
Oh,
That's outrageous. This will not stand.
Well, let me just point one thing out though. I actually think that the Load Reload albums were the pinnacle of Hetfield's voice. He had developed his voice, and of course, recording techniques were better in the 90s than in the 80s, but he had developed his voice. It was so good, powerful, gritty on that album, on those two albums. And then, of course, then he started, having his alcohol problems and his voice got worse. And anyway,
I mean, his voice for being whatever he is, late 50s, most men in their early 50s lose their voice. But Papa Head is, still having bouts with alcohol abuse, and he's like sounding good these days. Like I'm impressed.
Yeah. Well, so
because a lot of like singers totally lose it, man. Like Ian Gillan of Deep Purple sounds like an old woman right now. He's totally lost.
Yeah. Axl Rose totally lost it.
Axl Rose totally lost it.
So Matt says he doesn't think Metallica sold out, but if they'd changed their name after And Justice for All, they would have gotten less blowback from fans.
That's a horrible idea, Matt. Because then,
but that's the common theme on the message boards. Is they're like, if you're gonna be the same brand, Shred, you talk about this all the time. Like I'll be like, Shred, you should like do this on your channel, and you're like, dude, that's so off brand. I'm not gonna do it. And so that's what we're talking about, right? Like your Metallica did something that was off brand. They like cut their hair. They didn't look metal anymore. They didn't sound metal anymore.
I mean, there's a line there that, if you cross, it starts to be like, that's too much. But I mean, dude, as an artist, like you get tired of doing the same thing over and over again. Like, I don't want to just do my evil laugh all the time or just do, Bach versus Slayer videos, which is what made my channel grow initially. Like, I want to explore new terrain and grow as an artist and creator. And I think that's what you see in Metallica too. They just get a little bit bored and they want to explore, I mean, they're at the top of the heap and they're like, what next? What next?
Yeah. See, I don't think that's what happened with Metallica at all. They were not at the top of the heap in terms of like popularity. And I think that they wanted money. They got a taste of money and fame, and they're like, we need more of that. What do we have to do? And this next band is actually the perfect example of that, because he actually came out and said it. And of course, I'm talking about another thrash metal band, Megadeth, right?
No, Dave.
Megadeth.
Dave's just a money hungry, silly pants person. I knew it.
I don't know if he's a money hungry, silly pants, but he came out. So what he did is, throughout the 80s, Megadeth was, I think Megadeth was actually heavier and darker than Metallica. Let's Let's check out.
They talk about sci-fi.
An early Megadeth song. So this is called "The Skull Beneath the Skin." This was off their first album. Let's check this out.
Was that Kerry King playing the solo there? What the hell is that?
There's some evil sounding stuff going on there. So anyway,
yeah, that's the origin story of Vic Rattlehead, their mascot, by the way. That song.
Is that the Skull's name?
Yeah, Vic Rattlehead. Hear no evil. It's a symbol for censorship, which is very relevant to like today's society if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
But he's got like the ears blocked off. He can't see. His mouth is stapled shut. Yeah. So he's being censored, basically, is the idea.
Yeah. Well, so a lot of fans said that the album Risk is where Metallica they quote unquote sold out.
Megadeth. Right? Yeah, that was like late 90s, Luke, something like that.
97. Yeah, probably somewhere in there. So it was
It was like Marty Friedman's last record, maybe, with the band. Their most beloved guitarist.
Here's here's Dave admitting that he that he tried to sell out. So this is from an article I read. So it says in September 1996, Megadeth went to London to work on songs for the next album, which was, I think, going to be Risk. And he got a new manager called Bud Prager, and Bud Prager had worked with like Alice in Chains and some bands like that. And so regarding Prager's influence, Mustaine wrote later, I figured maybe this guy could help me get that intangible #1 record I so badly wanted.
Oh,
and then he hires a producer, Dan Huff, who he had met, back in the early 90s, who was a country pop producer to help write and produce the songs on Risk. Right?
What?
So here's Mustaine, and he's admitting it. He's like, I wanted a #1 record, and I was willing to do anything I had to do to get it. So here's a clip of this is called Wanderlust. This is off of Risk.
Oh man, that's horrible. Yeah. I've never heard that.
That is.
Or it's been a while anyway since I've heard it.
Literally sounds. Go ahead.
Like it.
Dude, when Dave tries to sound commercial, it's like, nope. Go back to your thing, bro.
Yeah. No, it literally sounded like Wanted Dead or Alive by John Bon Jovi.
Yeah, except a much worse version of it. Yeah.
It had a little bit of that. Yeah. And like, look at how the lyrics changed. My goodness.
The difference between the Vic Rattlehead and that's pretty significant.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. This did not work. I think Risk was like the least commercially. It had the least commercial success of any Megadeth. That was
like his Black album attempt or something, huh?
Exactly. He's like, I need that #1 because one of the, I think it was Countdown to Extinction or Euthanasia, debuted at like #2 on the Billboard 100. And he was like, I need a #1. I need a #1
Dave.
album. So he compromised his values.
Spot.
Yeah. He tried to chase the money and fame, And
well,
this
let's
is what
be
happened.
honest. He was also trying to dethrone Metallica, the metal gods.
Sure.
There's no question. I mean, just between you and me, Dave, it's okay to admit that he still harbors resentment against the biggest metal band in the world. You know, he it's tough. Like he did a Joe Rogan interview recently, and you can see like he's still a little bit butthurt about the whole situation, getting kicked out, etc. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
It is tough, but
We still love you, Dave. We still love you.
And Dave learned his lesson, and after that, he went back to the heavier stuff, which was great.
Yeah,
which was great.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting because I'm trying to think if there's any other Megadeth record that has sort of ventured away from the thrash blueprint.
Well, it definitely
went pretty much stuck to his guns, right? Well, Euthanasia was a
Euthanasia
little bit slower, yeah.
Yeah, so I had Euthanasia and Countdown to Extinction, and there was a noticeable difference between those two albums. But even Euthanasia, I would still call metal, right?
Yeah.
Now, I did not listen to Risk. I don't know that album at all. But if this is indicative of it, yeah, I mean this is like definitely like rock, right?
What was
like
that other one?
Rock.
Was it Cryptic Writings? I think was another Megadeth record that was also trying to be commercial.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's when he started working with this producer, and
he should have gotten Bob Rock. Bob Rock is the guy that produced the Black Album for Metallica, and Bob Rock is brilliant. I mean, that guy really. Whoa, man, he got some magic out of Metallica. The sound on the Black Album, man, is just huge. Everybody, knows it. It's just a groundbreaking record.
Well, there's something to be said for that. That's not, that is developing, right? It's like in anything, you're looking for people that can coach you or advance your technique. So it's like the producers, it's not like selling out necessarily to find a producer that's successful, right? Because obviously they've been good at figuring out how to like pull stuff out of people, and push them to their limits. But
yeah. I mean, like I'm all for selling in. Forget about selling out, sell in. Like and getting outside influence like Bob Rock or just like sometimes just anybody. It gives you perspective that you don't have on your art, right?
Yeah,
you get too close to what you're doing sometimes, and you can't quite see what's going on. So it's good to get outside influence.
But if you are doing things like, hey, change this however you need to make it more popular, like that's where you're losing the authenticity, right?
Yeah. Dave Mustaine. I mean, he writes great metal. Don't write country pop rock.
That was rough. Yeah.
I mean, somebody I'm sure out there likes it. I hear Matt said he liked Cryptic Writings.
Well, She-Wolf is, yeah, but She-Wolf is like a thrash song. It's got tons of chugs. Like you're totally bored the choo choo chug train. Choo choo. Like when you listen to She-Wolf, yeah, that's a thrash song. But Triple F, what the hell is that? I don't even know what that is.
It's probably. Yeah, an abbreviation. Well, okay, so let's jump to the next one because this one goes back to what we were talking about earlier. So Swedish progressive metal band Opeth. Right?
Oh, no.
Opeth. Now, a lot of people were raging about Opeth changing their style. But this one really surprised me. And, I might have to go on record saying that I don't feel like these guys have really changed much at all. But because from the beginning, and they did. Okay, so one of the big things that they did is they got rid of, Michael Akerfeld stopped doing the death growls, right?
There's like a lot of memes on that, which is hilarious. Yeah, that's a big deal. It's a big deal.
It's a big change when you're a death metal band.
Yeah, dramatic sound change for sure.
Which record was that? Yeah. Does anybody know? Like, because I had Blackwater Park. That was the first album I bought. I bought it in 2001 when it came out.
I think Heritage was all just regular, clean vocals. I think.
So how many records did they do before going clean?
Probably
like a few.
5, maybe.
Oh, jeez.
4 or 5. Well,
So
so
they
but,
really
but
had
here,
a big back catalog before they abandoned ship.
right, but I'm arguing that they didn't abandon ship, right? Because even on their first couple albums, they had clean vocals. They had both, right? But they also on their very first album, Orchid, they had acoustic guitars and piano, and they were not like a straight up death metal band, right? They were progressive, incorporating all kinds of elements. So let's check out a clip here. This is off of Orchid. This is called what is this one called? This is called
WAP.
The Twilight Is My Robe.
Ooh. There you go.
You've got some
that was weird. It was like metal and then a jazz bass solo and then guitar.
Exactly. I mean, they've got all kinds of elements going on. So then when Heritage comes out, there is a chunk of their fans that were like, oh my gosh, no, Opeth lost it. They sold out. But here's a clip from the song I Feel the Dark off of Heritage. Let's check this.
Whoa, that was evil, but clean vocals.
It's got a wild Heritage has a wild sound. It's like a psychedelic, twisted, like a very unique sound for sure.
Yeah, maybe Michael wanted to show all of that. Like, hey guys, I can do more than just scream and grunt. I've got this whole other aspect of my artistry that I want to get out there. Wrong, totally. Wrong, Michael. Just scream. That's it. Never do anything else.
And I feel like a lot of those elements that, maybe blossomed into Heritage were there from the beginning. And so, with the exception of, he toned the vocals down. Well, a lot of the rest of it was still there. So I'm not 100% sure what do you guys think? Let us know if you guys think Opeth sold out. I mean, dude, I just don't see them as a sellout at all.
99.9%. Wait a minute. 66.6%. It's more than that. It's the 99.9% like clean vocals in the world, right? So that's like 7 point something billion people. But then there's a small percentage of people that like the grunting, but they're highly judgmental, as we touched on earlier, right? True, like hardcore extreme metalheads, which Opeth is kind of in that extreme metal category. Yeah, if you abandon like those hardcore precepts, you will be crucified upside down.
But I would definitely say with Heritage, it didn't go in any sort of popular direction. Like with what you just heard, like, you don't have the grunting, which might turn off most of your friends that don't listen to metal, but I also don't think they're going to listen to Heritage.
It's not like they stopped playing evil chords or anything. I mean, exactly. That song was pretty diabolical.
That's what Joe says here. Joe Turton, so cool how a band can reinvent themselves, but still be true to their original sound. That's exactly what I think about Opeth. Now, I would not say
that's a good point.
I would not say the same about Metallica. I would say Now, and Metallica, I think, actually started getting heavier again when you got to like Saint Anger. So they like changed their sound dramatically in order to chase fortune and fame. And then they came back to their roots maybe like later, right?
Well,
but
maybe they
it's
were
an
just
issue
like,
coming full circle. They came full circle.
yeah.
Metallica went full circle.
Well, they went
I
out
feel
there.
like
Maybe it was a strategy of evangelism, right? They went out there to pull more in, and then they looped them back to their roots.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
100%. I mean, like, I totally support. If it wasn't for Metallica, there'd be far less receptivity towards metal music in general. They're like the gateway to get people that are used to popular music and normal sounding stuff. They kind of provide this sort of halfway house to get people sort of interested in heavier expression.
Sure. Yeah. And like nobody, some people on the message board certainly did. Like, we don't mean to like shit on Metallica. We're just saying
we would never.
What seems to be quite clear is that they left their original fan base behind to pursue bigger houses and faster cars. Right. and that's okay. That's okay. But let's admit that it's real, that it actually happened. Right.
And maybe wait a minute, Luke. Do you think it's okay though to want to not starve and make money?
But they weren't starving before. Here's the question, Shred. Is it reasonable to sell your soul in all for everything else you have in life? Everything you have in life, right? Your relationships, your credibility, your honesty, your integrity, your ability to play your guitar. If someone said, "Hey, Shred, I'll give you $1 billion, but you got to cut both of your hands off," would you do it? I mean, there are more
Luke, you're right.
things.
Metallica deserves to go to jail for, this little slip up they had in the 90s. Now, maybe after 66.6 years, we can release them, but they should pay for your crimes.
No, they've already been paid. No, but that's all I'm saying is let's just acknowledge what happened, right? I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying let's acknowledge what happened. And I will say personally, and not personally, objectively, their music, even though it was more accessible and it was a gateway drug and all this stuff, which is all great and everything, they dumbed the shit down out of their music. Their pop stuff is not nearly as good. It's not nearly as quality as their metal stuff.
Sure.
So
I mean,
let's just be honest about it.
I mean, that's how you get more ears, basically, is dumbing things down, right? I mean, like, can you think of a pop? Well, man, that's why I'm so interested, though, in bands like Van Halen, because they had like this virtuosic element and still sold a lot of records. Whoa, that to me is a blueprint worth studying.
Yes. But again, what I'm saying is you're saying making money is the pinnacle. It's the reason why anything exists. And I'm saying, no. I want to listen to Finn Zeeler. I don't care that it's never going to be popular. It's better music, right?
Okay.
It's better, objectively better. And if we only said, hey, we have to find what's most popular for everybody, Finn wouldn't be writing the most brilliant music the planet has ever heard.
And that's a valid point. My point is that let's avoid binary thinking. It's either right or wrong. There is no such thing as right and wrong. There's only actions and consequences. And there's a middle ground that you want to hit there where it's like you're still staying true to your artistic expression, but you're also being practical about making a living, which will then feed into producing better quality art.
I disagree with many things.
see what happens is you'll get brilliant artists, but then they don't have the knowledge of how to make a living doing what they're doing. So they have to work a 9-to-5 job, which means less time that they can invest in developing their art. So what I'm getting at is there some kind of middle ground we can hit here between artistic development and business savvy? Or
Yes.
is it just one or the other, and they're the two can't coexist?
No, of course it's a spectrum. Of course it's a spectrum. But that when you're talking about selling out, I think what you're talking about, you're not talking about getting more popular. You're talking about leaving behind what you were just for the money, right?
Okay.
So you're like Dave Mustaine. He's like, I'm going to write a country Western pop song.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Just because he wanted a number one record, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Countdown for Extinction at number 2 is good, right?
There's a way you can like pioneer your sound, but also and maybe change it, but stay authentic and be genuine about who you really are in terms of your artistic identity.
Yes.
But then there's Lord Dave Mustaine may have gone too far there with that country knockoff of Bon Jovi. It's just a balance to hit, and I think we err on the side of telling artists and musicians to focus on the art without educating them on how to make a practical reality out of building a business on your art. And I think we're missing out as a whole. There could be so many great artists in hiding, and in fact, we know there are. You mentioned Finn Zeeler.
Yes.
So a lot of artists don't get a chance, who are really talented, to show and demonstrate their skills to the world because they can't figure out how to sell. And now maybe you don't have to sell out, but you got to learn how to. But you got to learn how to sell at least a little bit. If you can't figure that out, then you're not going to have enough time to really become the best artist that you could be.
Yeah, good distinction.
That is a good distinction. You need to sell. You don't have to sell out.
Right? The difference there. Yeah.
Right.
Who else committed egregious sins in this?
Okay.
category?
Well, this is probably the most egregious in my opinion, and it's also the most heartbreaking. I had no idea that this even happened. Celtic Frost, a band that we have talked about on here many times.
Basically,
these guys
give us a quick rundown though, Luke. Celtic Frost kind of like started black metal, basically, right?
They laid the foundation for almost all extreme metal genres, death metal, black metal. Yeah, I mean, they had all of the ingredients, right? I mean, they were loving the tritones and all this kind of stuff. Let's take a quick listen to this is off of their first album. This song is called, or their second album, Into the Pandemonium. This is called Dawn of Megiddo.
Whoa, was that like a tempo change just out of nowhere there?
Tempo changes, like it was like progressive. They're like constantly like changing riffs. It's dark. They started, they really, pioneered like singing about the occult and all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was like the devil holding Jesus.
Yeah, creepy cover.
Yeah,
very creepy things. Yeah,
yeah. So I had no idea what these guys were doing in the 90s. And now I'm really glad I didn't know. And I'm sad to know now. These guys changed and tried to go glam metal in the 90s after glam died.
So they're like 10 years late on the glam train trying to capitalize.
Yeah, the craziest thing. So here is a clip. They did a music video for it. This is called Cherry Orchards.
So I got a question though. Like, do you think they played that song live and then played the prior song?
Yeah, what's the set list?
Like when you go live, what does your set list look like?
Great question, man.
Cherry orchards.
They need
Cherry orchard.
There's a great example of change your name. You're not Celtic Frost
I mean,
at that point,
there's
right?
a limit. Like sometimes you take it too far, and now you're in a separate branding territory. I mean, that's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, flip the switch. That's too much. That's too
from
much.
Creating the foundations of extreme metal to that, and you could still hear like some of the. Go ahead, Pete.
And I was just gonna say, and it's also like, right, they were the leaders, and now they're like the late to the game followers, right? They're like, we're pioneering a genre, and now they're like, well, we don't know what to do. Let's do what everyone else was doing 10 years ago.
Right. We should get them on for an interview. We could probably get them on for an interview and be like, guys, what happened in this period? It's like, I can predict what happened. Right? Is that again, they weren't making any coin, but they didn't want to work a regular job. So they're like, maybe 80s metal is hot, so we can capitalize on that. But, it does come back to this thing we're talking about where it's like authenticity, people's bullshit radars, are highly sensitive, especially now. They can sense when you're not being like genuine or true to yourself. Or maybe you're, being an imposter trying to just capitalize on a trend, and there is a limit to that. You can't just go super hard that direction and expect to maintain a fan base, because people do respect someone who stays true, to their vision.
Oh yeah. Well, and so to be fair, I got my dates a little wrong. That was in 89.
Yeah, I was gonna.
So it was like the year before like glam metal and all that died. And to be fair, to their credit,
I mean, when was Nevermind by Nirvana? That's when glam
that was 91.
Died. Okay, so
that was 91.
It's still a couple of years there. Yeah, they hit the end of the trend.
Yeah. So, but so to be fair so Celtic Frost broke up like shortly after this, and then they got back together in like 2000. And in 2006, they released their last album called Monotheist, and they went back to like the heavy, dark, extreme metal. So they tried this thing. They tried, they tried to change genres and hit the glam metal stuff. Did not work out.
Sometimes what you're doing is working. You just need more time, and you don't really realize that you are building a fan base. You just have to stay the course. And you get a little impatient. Maybe that's what happened with Celtic Frost. I don't know. But it is frustrating, man. If you're an artist and you're like, this is what I want to do. This is my career, but you can't sustain yourself. It's like, I mean, you start to panic and try weird stuff.
Yeah. So I several people on the message boards commented that the term selling out actually started because of Celtic Frost when they released Cold Lake. That's where the term came from. I don't know if that's true or not.
The idea of abandoning your core values has been around for longer than like 25, 30 years.
Of course, but like the term selling out. Oh, they're a sellout. They sold out. Like that term. Several people said that was Celtic Frost was the one, but I have not researched that. So
I mean, that is a pretty egregious one. If you go from like Satan is the best to, cherry orchards,
Marilyn Monroe,
all kinds of cherry orchards. That's just disgusting, first of all. But that's a pretty serious diversion from your previous course. You're kind of doing this, you're going in opposite directions there. So I call foul play on that. That's too much. With Metallica, I'm like, you guys get a pass. I totally get it. You're just exploring like another aspect of your brand and creativity. You don't just want to do the same thing all the time, but they're still in the wheelhouse. But the Celtic Frost, nope. That's too much.
Yeah. Well, now here's another one. This one is super interesting to me.
I'll
the
never
band
release my
Death.
live performances of playing Britney Spears covers in a dress. I'll never do that. Those don't exist.
Oh boy, somebody break into Shred's place and get those videos. Don't actually do that. Leave Shred
I'm going
alone.
to destroy them now.
So the band Death, Chuck Schollinger.
What?
What?
No
what?
way.
People are calling him a sellout on the message boards. So
No
I
way.
had to do some research.
I don't
Everybody
even
was
know about
saying,
this.
yeah. So they said, after the band or the album Human, they had some lineup changes, and then they released individual thought patterns, and people were like, yeah, this album's shit. He like totally sold out. So here is Death from their first album. This song is called Evil Dead.
That sounds like death.
Sounds like death.
Yeah.
That sounds like death. Well, now here is
R.I.P.
a song
Lord
called
Chuck.
this song is called In Human Form off of the album I just mentioned. What was it? Individual Thought Patterns. Here if this is different. I mean, if that's selling out, I'm buying.
See, that's what
Like,
I'm talking about, man. With death metal fans, they're highly judgmental. They're like, a tiny percentage of the population. I hate to use the word incel, but perhaps there's a degree of them that
Dude,
are.
I'm a death metal fan. Them be fighting words.
Yeah, well, so am I. But it's like, guys, I'm like, can we get past this like just petty, judgmental sort of attitude that about anything that's not extreme metal? And listen, that was the first kind of music that I started listening to, and I totally get like the attitude. Like I started listening to Fear Factory, Meshuggah. It's the heaviest bands on the planet. Like that was the first thing I was exposed to. And also Christian death metal, which is horrible. That scarred me for life. But like anything, Luke, I violated your ears, your virgin ears with this. I penetrated deep into the chasm of your eardrums. And
I remember.
Like I know what it is. Like you get in this space in your mind, and you're like, nothing else gives me like that level of adrenaline, or because extreme metal is so intense, right? And you're like, oh, anything I listen to has to give me that same super powerful pedal to the metal feeling. But man, there's other emotions to explore in life, and that's okay to have like softer sections, or jazz, classical. It's okay.
So maybe that applies to this next band.
Hold on though. I mean, people are really saying that. I mean, because the difference
people were like, Chuck sold
recordings is I would not consider that a legitimate sellout from what I heard.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what people are talking about. Was that a sellout, Pete?
No,
it's just this hyper judgmental attitude of extreme metal fans,
Yeah, and that's where it's like, hey, something changed a little bit. I don't like that. They sold out. That didn't even change much.
That was very little change.
You got to get out more, talk to people, from different backgrounds and stuff, and just expand a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you guys listening, let
Tough
us
love
know.
Uncle Shred.
Did Death change their style that much. I don't know. Now this next band definitely did.
Did it become deathed? That's not a word. I'm trying to come up with fancy words like Dave Mustaine. He used macabre.
He did.
I failed anyways.
Not in his cowboy western song. That was all simple.
His vocabulary suddenly just diminished, like it was gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So this next band, so here we go.
Words.
Another one of the big four, Anthrax. Now these guys did radically change their sound, but again, and maybe they were chasing the money, but they started working with some producers in the 90s, and the producers got them doing stuff that maybe they didn't even want to do. I don't know. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not going to say. It's not for me to say. But this is definitely a change, unlike that.
It's going to be Switzerland on this, huh? Okay.
So here is Soldiers of Metal off of their first album, Anthrax. Here we go. Okay. Sounds now, like the name of that album is Fistful of Metal? What is the name of their first album? Yeah, Fistful of Metal. Yeah.
It looked like the guy was punching through the dude's mouth with metal.
It was like the Vulgar Display of Power cover by Pantera, except more metal, literally.
Yeah. So now here, in I think it was the mid 90s, late 90s, Anthrax. So first of all, Joey Belladonna left. The lead singer, and then they got John Bush, right? And so John Bush and these like new producers, whatever, come along, and then Anthrax does this album called The Sound of White Noise. And this was one of their most commercially successful albums. So here's the song Black Lodge.
I am a witness to your demise.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty significant departure.
Very grunge.
It's grunge.
Opening had a lot of grunge to it.
Yeah, definitely had like Soundgarden vibes to it.
So Joey Belladonna, right, the first guy, he has like this total operatic, tradition. He learned like classical or something. But yeah, the other guy, nope. That's a totally different vocal style. Now, in vocals, like when you change up your vocals, that's the most identifiable characteristic of your sound. That's what everybody hears first.
Oh, yeah.
So when you change that, understandably so, people are going to cry foul.
Which is why I can understand people feeling like Opeth really changed because they stopped doing the death growls.
Yeah,
but their musical style didn't really change that much. So we're actually up against a hard deadline here. We're about to hit the 1 hour mark. So the other band we had, which we won't get to, is Carcass. I also had two bands though that went the opposite direction. They bought in to metal. So, and we'll have to hit these some other time. But Pantera, they went from glam metal, singing about "Ride My Rocket." And then Phil Anselmo comes in, and then you get Vulgar like Display of Power. And so they got heavy. And they found all of their commercial success. Yeah, they found all of their commercial success when they went heavier, which was interesting. And then the other band is Ice Nine Kills. They started as like an emo punk pop ska band. And now they just released an album this year. And they're all songs based on horror movies. They got like Corpse Grinder sings a song on one of their songs and stuff. So they went from like emo pop punk. Go ahead, Pete.
I have a thought because it goes back a little bit to what Shred was saying. Like, you need to learn how to sell, not sell out. Most markets there's certainly pop is a bigger market than metal, but both of those are big enough markets to sell in, right? To be successful and to earn a good living, right? And make good money. And so that's kind of the thing here. Like you said, Pantera made their popularity and their money going into metal, heavier, leaning into it heavier. So, I mean, it's sometimes I think it's a bit of, well, it looks like it'd be easier to make the money over there, or doing this seems like it'd be easier, but really it's a function of learning how to market and sell. I mean, you talk about Metallica, they also really have learned how to market themselves,
Dude, I mean,
right.
Not even accounting for like just all genres. Metallica is one of the biggest live selling acts, right, Luke? I mean, we're checking out the numbers the other day. Like Metallica makes in between 6 and 12 million a show. Now, I don't care what band you are or what genre you're in. That's good, right?
Yeah.
So
it's literally like Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber. They make the same.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's incredible. And now you can bury your head in the sand and pretend that, marketing isn't real and human nature isn't real. Okay, fine, starve. Or you can come to grips with reality and level up in terms of not just, the art, but also how you push that out into the world and gain attention so that you can actually build a viable business.
Yeah, well, and to Pete's point, like there's a lot of room between Starving and Metallica, right? And so we're actually going to do an episode on, the money in metal. I've got probably going to need a couple more weeks. It is so hard to find all this information, but I've been researching it for a couple weeks now, and we're going to do an episode on how much money can you make in metal, and we'll cover the spectrum. You can make money in metal. You don't have to starve unless you are like, if you have no idea what you're doing, then nobody's going to come to your shows, right? You're not going to sell anything. So anyway, so okay, we got to run, but great episode. Let us know what bands you think sold out. Is selling out even a thing? Is that a real thing, or do bands just naturally evolve over time? Let us know your thoughts on this subject. And until next time, remember that the world ends with you. So don't sell out. Keep it metal.